Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back yet another exciting class. Hi, I am Sneha, your bioeducator and you are watching biologypathbhavan. Before starting the class, I would like to thank my viewers who have already joined this channel and those who are new, I would request to subscribe to this channel because through this channel, your concept will be crystal clear. So let's dive into the video. As we all know, every organisms require energy to perform their basic life processes. It can be both cases internally and externally. Externally, we require energy for sleeping, reading books, eating, etc. But internally, we have cells, and the cells performing our basic life processes like nutrition, growth, transport, excretion, reproduction. All these life processes occur inside our cells. So obviously, cell also need or require energy. But do you know where does this energy comes from? This energy comes from the food we take in our daily life, in our daily basis. Okay? That is why our parents insist us to have food. Okay. Now, have you ever wondered that how does we utilize these food to produce the energy? And here comes the word respiration in the screen. So please write down the chapter Respiration in Organisms. Now in today's class, we will be covering 3 topics. Number 1, concept of respiration, and this will be our base or the fundamental fact of the chapter. Second, human respiratory system, and third is breathing. Okay. Rest of the part we will be discussing in our next class, and this will be our part 1 and that will be our part 2. Okay. So what is respiration? Respiration is a process of breakdown of food in the cell with the release of energy is termed as respiration, and ये respiration occurs inside or within the cells. That is why it is also termed as cellular respiration. So respiration and cellular respiration both are the same thing. Okay, so this is the very important definition. You have to remember this because this is the base of this chapter. Now again I am saying the definition of cellular respiration is the process of breakdown of food in the cell with the release of energy is termed as cellular respiration. मतलब सेल के अंदर फूड ब्रेक्स डाउन होके एनर्जी रिलीज होता है, इसी को हम लोग सेल्यूलर रेस्पिरेशन बोलते हैं. एंड सेल्यूलर रेस्पिरेशन ऑलवेज ऑकर इनसाइड द सेल. दैट इज व्हाई इट इज टर्म्ड एज सेल्यूलर रेस्पिरेशन. ओके. Now one more thing you have to know that the food we intake, within the food there are lots of nutrients are present, है ना. हम लोग डाइजेशन के चैप्टर में पढ़े थे कि बहुत सारे न्यूट्रिएंट्स हमारे फूड के अंदर में पाया जाता है. That is macronutrients and micronutrients. In case of macronutrients, we have carbohydrate, protein and fats, right? But the main energy source or source of energy is the carbohydrate and fat rich food. So carbohydrate and fat rich food mainly breaks down and release energy. So what kind of food need or we require to get that energy? Mainly carbohydrate and fat rich food are the main source of energy. Okay. Now respiration is of 2 kinds, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now if we break down the term aerobic, we found that in the presence of air. Aerobic means in the presence of air. In the presence of air. Okay, now air contains oxygen. So whenever breakdown of glucose occurs in the presence of oxygen is termed as aerobic respiration. Now here comes a question that where does this glucose comes from, right? So as I already told you that within the food there are carbohydrate and fat, and these carbohydrate and fat are the main source of energy. And please recall one more thing, that in our digestion chapter we have already see that within the food there are lots of nutrients are present, and they are found in complex manner, or they are present in complex manner. But in order to utilize that food, we need to break down the complex substances into simpler ones, and glucose is the simpler form of carbohydrate. Okay, so within the cell, glucose breaks down into energy or forms energy in the presence of oxygen is termed as aerobic respiration. So फिर से मैं एक बार बोल देती हूँ कि जब भी आप लोग गो थ्रू करोगे, कुछ चीज़ को पढ़ोगे, उसको पहले ब्रेक कर लो. ब्रेक करने से क्या होगा, उसको पढ़ने का जो तरीका होगा वो बहुत इजी हो जाएगा. जैसे कि एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन, इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ एयर जो रेस्पिरेशन होता है सेल के अंदर, ग्लूकोज ब्रेकडाउन होकर एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस होता है, उसी को हम लोग एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन बोल सकते हैं. ठीक है. एंड फूड ब्रेक्स डाउन इनटू carbon dioxide, water and release energy. Okay, so here carbon dioxide and water are the byproducts of this chemical process. And one more thing, cellular respiration is a chemical process. You have to know this, that it is a chemical process. Okay, it is a chemical process. So in case of aerobic respiration, glucose breaks down into carbon dioxide, water and energy. Now, in case of aerobic respiration, 38 amount of ATP are produced. Now, what is ATP? देखो, ये जो एनर्जी हमारे बॉडी प्रोड्यूस करता है, इसको स्टोर करने के लिए वो मॉलिक्यूल्स की फॉर्म में स्टोर होता है, एंड ATP इज द मॉलिक्यूल. सो इफ वी ब्रेक डाउन दिस ATP or expand this ATP, the full form of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Okay, adenosine triphosphate or ATP. So in case of aerobic respiration, 38 amount of ATP are produced. So that is a lot of energy. Okay, and we humans all the organisms, all the maximum animals are performing or aerobic respiration to produce the maximum amount of energy, right? I hope I am clear up to this. Now next kinds is anaerobic respiration. अब इसको भी अगर हम ब्रेक करेंगे, anaerobic, an means absence, ठीक है, and means absence, मतलब ऑक्सीजन की एब्सेंस में जो रेस्पिरेशन होता है उसी को हम लोग बोलेंगे anaerobic respiration. This is the simple thing, and how you recall these two kinds. Okay, this is the simple way, and this way you can recall these two kinds, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So the process where food breaks down without oxygen, ऑक्सीजन की एब्सेंस में फूड ब्रेक्स डाउन होता है. ऑक्सीजन की प्रेजेंस में अगर होगा उसको हम लोग बोलेंगे एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन, ऑक्सीजन की एब्सेंस में अगर होगा उसको हम बोलेंगे एनाएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. सो एन मीन्स absence of air and aerobic means air, obviously. Now Food breaks down into, in this process, food breaks down into alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. Now here's another thing. एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन में जो प्रोसेस होता था वहाँ पे कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड वाटर एज बाई प्रोडक्ट प्रोड्यूस होता था, पर इन केस ऑफ एनाएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन ग्लूकोज ब्रेकडाउन होके प्रोड्यूस करता है अल्कोहल प्लस what carbon dioxide and energy, and here two molecules of ATP is produced. So this is a very less amount. You should also know that there are some organisms that can survive in the absence of air or in the absence of oxygen. They are called anaerobes, okay, and they exhibit anaerobic respiration because they respire anaerobically. Okay, so yeast is nothing but a single cell organism. This is a yeast, and they perform anaerobically, or they respire anaerobic respiration. Okay, so that is why they are also termed as anaerobes, right? In case of anaerobic respiration, I have already told you that they produce, glucose breaks down in the absence of oxygen and produce alcohol, water, carbon dioxide and energy. Two amount of ATP is produced. Is also produced alcohol, that is why they are used in wine, beer, also they are used in bakery farm to produce bread, croissant, biscuits, etc. Okay. Now, the very most important topic of this chapter is the difference of aerobic and anaerobic respiration. ये question बहुत बार एग्जाम में आप लोगों को दिया जाता है, so please do read this very carefully. Okay, so in case of anaerobic respiration, it does not require oxygen, but in case of aerobic respiration, it requires oxygen. Okay. Now, aerobic respiration occurs in mitochondria. Now, mitochondria is a cell organelle which is present within the cell. Cell के अंदर एक cell organelle पाया जाता है जिसका नाम है mitochondria, जिसको हम लोग power house of the body भी बोलते हैं. Because why? Because इसके अंदर ATP store होता है. ठीक है, सेल के अंदर जो एनर्जी रिलीज होता है वो एनर्जी ATP के फॉर्म में हमारे माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में स्टोर होता है. दैट इज वाई माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया इज ऑल्सो टर्म्ड एज पावर हाउस ऑफ द सेल. सेल की पावर हाउस भी बोला जाता है. ठीक है, एंड एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन ऑलवेज ऑकर्स इन माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया, बट एनाएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन ऑलवेज ऑकर्स इन साइटोप्लाज्म. ठीक है, सेल में जो साइटोप्लाज्म, जो सेमी लिक्विड पार्ट रहता है न्यूक्लियस के बाहर, दैट इज द साइटोप्लाज्म, उसमें होता है. Aerobic respiration में 38 amount of ATP molecules are generated, but in case of anaerobic respiration 2 ATP molecules are generated. Okay, so this is the very important topic, you have to recall this. Now one more interesting thing, that our muscle cell can also respire anaerobically. But why? Why our muscle cells respire anaerobically? Because whenever we do exercise or heavy running, fast running or cycling or walking for hours and hours or heavy weightlifting, we need more and more amount of energy to do this kind of activities, right? But the supply of oxygen to produce that amount of energy is not sufficient at that time. मतलब उस टाइम में ऑक्सीजन, जितनी ऑक्सीजन से वो एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन होगा वो सफिशिएंट नहीं होता है, क्योंकि ऑक्सीजन की प्रेजेंस में एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन में क्या होता है? एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन में इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, वाटर एंड एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस होता है. पर उस टाइम पे जो ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई होता है उससे जो एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस होता है, दैट अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी इज नॉट सफिशिएंट फॉर दैट वॉकिंग और फॉर दैट हेवी एक्सरसाइज और फॉर दैट हेवी वेट लिफ्टिंग. सो टू फुलफिल द डिमांड ऑफ द एनर्जी, आवर मसल्स रेस्पायर एनाएरोबिकली. इन द एब्सेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन हमारे मसल सेल्स रेस्पिरेशन को रेस्पिरेशन को परफॉर्म करता है टू प्रोड्यूस एनर्जी. ओके, बट दिस हैपन्स ओनली फॉर अ शॉर्ट पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. ओके, so within the muscle, glucose breaks down into lactic acid and energy. In case of anaerobic respiration, we saw that glucose in the absence of oxygen breaks down into alcohol plus carbon dioxide plus water. But in case of muscle cell, that is very different. Please remember these two things. In case of muscle cells, glucose breaks down in the absence of oxygen into lactic acid and energy. Okay, this is very important thing. You have to remember this. Now, after the heavy exercise or heavy weightlifting, we often got muscle cramps, है ना. जब भी हम लोग वेट लिफ्टिंग करते हैं, हेवी एक्सरसाइज करते हैं और रनिंग, फास्ट वॉकिंग करने के बाद हमारे हाथ पैर में बहुत क्रैम्प्स होता है, मसल क्रैम्प्स जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं. बट वाई डज वी गेट दैट मसल क्रैम्प्स? बिकॉज द एक्यूमुलेशन ऑफ लैक्टिक एसिड इनसाइड आवर मसल्स. ये जो मसल्स हमारे एनर्जी डिमांड को फुलफिल करने के लिए एनाएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन को परफॉर्म करता है, एंड उसमें से जो लैक्टिक एसिड प्रोडक्शन होता है वो लैक्टिक एसिड हमारे मसल के अंदर एक्यूमुलेटेड हो जाता है, एंड ड्यू टू एक्यूमुलेशन ऑफ दिस लैक्टिक एसिड वी गॉट दैट मसल क्रैम्प्स. बट हाउ डू वी गेट रिलीफ फ्रॉम दिस क्रैम्प्स? वी गेट रिलीफ फ्रॉम दिस क्रैम्प आफ्टर अ हॉट वाटर बाथ और hot water bath or massage. ओके, ठीक है. हॉट वाटर बाथ और मसाज के थ्रू हम लोग ये जो मसल क्रैम्प से रिलीफ कर पाते हैं. बट हाउ? बिकॉज हॉट वाटर बाथ और मसाज improves blood circulation inside the body. अब ब्लड सर्कुलेशन जितना इंक्रीज होगा उतनी ही हमारे बॉडी में ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. सप्लाई ऑफ ऑक्सीजन इंक्रीज्ड. ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई जितनी इंक्रीज होगा, ये जो लैक्टिक एसिड हमारे बॉडी के अंदर जो मसल्स के अंदर पाया जाता है वो ब्रेक्स डाउन हो जाएगा इनटू CO2 प्लस वाटर. सो ये जो लैक्टिक एसिड है ये ब्रेक्स डाउन हो जाएगा इनटू CO2 एंड वाटर, एंड दैट इज हाउ वी गेट रिलीफ फ्रॉम द मसल क्रैम्प्स. सो वंस अगेन आई एम सेइंग दैट जब भी हम लोग हेवी एक्सरसाइज के बाद जो हमारे मसल्स क्रैम्प्स होता है वो वी गेट रिलीफ फ्रॉम हॉट वाटर बाथ और अ मसाज. बट हाउ? हॉट वाटर बाथ और मसाज कैन इम्प्रूव द ब्लड सर्कुलेशन. हॉट वाटर बाथ में ब्लड सर्कुलेशन इंक्रीज हो जाता है. जितना ब्लड सर्कुलेशन इंक्रीज होगा उतनी ब्लड में ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. इट ऑल्सो इंक्रीजेज द ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई. अब ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई जितनी इंक्रीज होगा, मसल्स के अंदर जो लैक्टिक एसिड एक्यूमुलेशन हो रहा था वो लैक्टिक एसिड ब्रेक्स डाउन हो जाएगा इनटू carbon dioxide and water, and that is how we get relief from the muscle cramps. That is why every gym or in workout places always gym trainer tells us that always shower after the exercise, not before the exercise, because exercise के बाद जब आप लोग hot water में shower लोगे, lukewarm water में shower लोगे, वो blood circulation को increase करेगा and जो muscle cramps हो रहा था वो ठीक हो जाएगा. राइट? Now, as we already read about aerobic respiration, and we know that aerobic respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen. Now, the question is, where does this oxygen comes from? The oxygen comes from our surrounding, external surrounding. But how does this oxygen enter our body to perform the cellular respiration inside our body or inside our cell? And here comes the word breathing. Okay, so breathing is a physical process. Okay, breathing is a physical process. Now, breathing is a process of taking oxygen and going out or exhaled out carbon dioxide is termed as breathing. Okay, मतलब we need oxygen for our respiration, so we breathe in oxygen and during respiration carbon dioxide is produced as a byproduct which is not required in our body, so we need to exhaled out or breathe out from the body is termed as breathing. Okay, now here's another thing I want to tell you, that breathing and respiration, these are the two different process. Breathing and respiration are not the same thing. Respiration means respiration occurs inside the cell. Food breaks down inside the cell and produce energy is termed as respiration, and it is a chemical process, where breathing is inhalation of oxygen and exhalation of carbon dioxide from the body is termed as breathing, and it is a physical process. So these are two entirely different process. Okay, बहुत सारे लोग इसमें कंफ्यूज्ड हो जाते हैं, बट डू नॉट गेट कंफ्यूज्ड. ब्रीदिंग में एक्सहेलेशन एंड इनहेलेशन होता है. टेकिंग इन ऑक्सीजन रिच एयर is termed as inhalation, and giving out carbon dioxide rich air from the body is called exhalation. Okay, now what is breathing rate? Breathing rate is the number of times a person breathes in a minute. मतलब एक मिनट में एक पर्सन कितनी बार ब्रीथ करता है उसी को हम लोग बोलेंगे ब्रीदिंग रेट. राइट, हम लोग जब रेस्ट में रहते हैं तब 15 to 18 टाइम्स इज द नॉर्मल टाइम्स इन अ मिनट हम लोग ब्रीथ करते हैं. ठीक है, इन अ मिनट 15 to 18 टाइम्स वी ब्रीथ एट ड्यूरिंग रेस्ट, एंड ड्यूरिंग हेवी एक्सरसाइज our breathing rate will be up to 25 times per minute. You have to remember this. Now, breathing means one inhalation plus one exhalation equals to one breathe. Okay, मतलब एक बार ब्रीथ हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे, वन टाइम इनहेलेशन एंड वन टाइम एक्सहेलेशन इज इक्वल्स टू वन ब्रीथ. एंड ब्रीदिंग रेट मतलब पर मिनट में एक पर्सन कितनी टाइम्स ब्रीथ करता है उसी को हम लोग ब्रीदिंग रेट बोलते हैं. नाउ द थिंग इज, हाउ डू वी ब्रीथ? Okay, so the organ system that facilitates the process of breathing is known as human respiratory system. So human respiratory system facilitates the process of breathing, that is the inhalation of air rich in oxygen and exhalation of air rich in carbon dioxide. Okay, now we will see the entire structure of human respiratory system. The human respiratory system starts with the nose, and here is the two openings that is present on the opening of the nose, that is the nostrils. Okay, so these are the nostrils. Now nostrils is the opening of the nose through which air rich in oxygen goes inside the nose, right? Now this air reaches the nasal cavity. This is the nasal cavity, and from there the air rich in oxygen goes down to the pharynx. Now pharynx is the common passage of food and wind pipe. This is the common passage of food and windpipe. Okay. Now from here the oxygen rich air goes to the larynx. Now larynx, what is larynx? Larynx is the voice box. Okay, voice box through which the vibration occurs and sound is produced, through which we can talk, right? Now after that the air passes down to the trachea. Okay, passes down to the trachea. Trachea is also known as windpipe. Okay, so the oxygen rich air first of all go from the nostrils to the nasal cavity, and then to pharynx, then to larynx, and then it is goes to the trachea, which is also known as windpipe. Okay, now this trachea is secured through the cartilaginous structures, which is a cartilaginous membrane through which this is secured. Okay, this windpipe is, or trachea is secured by the cartilaginous structures. Now the trachea moves downwards and it is bifurcated through bifurcated to bronchus. Okay, this trachea goes down and it is bifurcated into bronchus. Now bronchus again further bifurcated into bronchioles. Okay, these are the bronchioles and these are the tree like structure. जैसे ट्री में ऐसे 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 ब्रांचेस होता है, वैसे ही ब्रोंकस फर्दर बाइफर्केटेड हो जाता है ब्रोंक्यूल्स में, एंड ब्रोंक्यूल्स की टिप में बहुत सारे एयर लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स पाया जाता है, जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं एयर लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स को हम लोग बोलते हैं एल्वियोली. सो टू क्लियर विजन मैं रेड कलर से ये दिखाती हूँ, ठीक है, या फिर वाइट कलर से मैं दिखाती हूँ, ठीक है. दीज आर दी bronchioles which is present at the tip of the bronchioles, and these are the alveoli. Okay, so these are the alveoli, or also known as air sacs, also known as air sacs. Okay, now these entire and also one more thing, these two are the lungs. This is the right lung and this is the right lung and this is the left lung. Now one more thing, that these lungs is secured by the rib cage. rib cage के अंदर ये lungs secured रहता है, ठीक है. So here this is the rib cage, this is the rib cage, right? This is the rib cage. Also these lungs from downwards, it is also secured by a muscular structure that is termed as diaphragm, right? This is the entire structure of respiratory system. Now we will see it thoroughly by visualization. First of all, this is the nose, and through which the air rich in oxygen goes inside. Along with the air, we have lots of microorganisms that may enter through these nostrils. That is why inside the nasal cavity we have hair and mucus that will trap the microorganisms that may enter through the nasal cavity. Okay, nasal cavity के nostrils के through जो एयर पासेस होता है उसमें बहुत सारे माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स भी रहता है, जो माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स को ट्रैप कर देता है. नेजल कैविटी के अंदर बहुत सारे एयर होता है, जो एयर एंड म्यूकस उसी माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स या फिर डस्ट पार्टिकल्स को ट्रैप कर लेता है, ठीक है. आफ्टर दैट द एयर रिच ऑक्सीजन goes inside, the rich in oxygen goes inside the pharynx. Pharynx is the food pipe. So here is the pharynx part. So here is the pharynx. This is the pharynx. This is the common structure of food and windpipe. After that, it goes down into the larynx, which is the voice box. This is the larynx, which is known as voice box. Okay. Now after that, from larynx, the air goes down into trachea. This is the trachea, also known as windpipe, and as I already told you that this is secured by the cartilaginous structure. This is the cartilaginous structure. This is the muscle that we can see here, and from trachea further bifurcated into bronchus. This is the bronchus. Okay. Now bronchus again further bifurcated into tree-like structures, which is known as bronchioles. Right? Bronchioles. After that, bronchioles has, at the tip of bronchioles, they have alveoli or air-like structures, air sac or alveoli, also known as alveoli. Right? This is the entire process of, this is the entire structure of human respiratory system. Now you can also see here that this is the right lung, this is the left lung. Okay, this is the right bronchi, air passageway to the lungs, and this is the left bronchi, and this is the diaphragm that separates the thorax and the abdomen. हमारे जो thorax मतलब जो chest cavity होता है and जो abdomen होता है उसको separate कर देता है ये diaphragm, that is a muscular structure, and also trachea is the windpipe that provides air flow for respiration. Okay, now अगर हम लोग ये alveoli को थोड़ा डिफाइन करके देखेंगे या फिर इलास्ट्रेशन करके देखेंगे तो ऐसे टाइप ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर्स हमको देखने को मिलेगा. ठीक है, ये जो एयर सैक लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स है इसके अंदर गैशियस एक्सचेंज होता है. क्या होता है? गैशियस एक्सचेंज होता है. गैशियस एक्सचेंज ऑफ व्हाट? ऑक्सीजन एंड कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड. ये जो एयर सैक है दैट इज रिच इन ब्लड वेसल्स. ये जो एल्वियोली होता है इस एल्वियोली के ऊपर से बहुत सारे ब्लड वेसल्स या फिर ब्लड कैपिलरीज ऐसे फैला के रहता है. ठीक है, जब भी ऑक्सीजन रिच एयर हमारे एयर सैक में आ जाता है या फिर एल्वियोली में आ जाता है, इसके थ्रू ये ऑक्सीजन रिच एयर हमारे ब्लड वेसल्स में चला जाता है एंड देन ब्लड वेसल से ये ब्लड में फ्लो होने के बाद सेल्स में पहुंच जाता है. ठीक है, एंड सेल्स में जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोड्यूस्ड होता है, जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड सेल में प्रोड्यूस होता है वो फ्रॉम सेल ये चला जाता है ब्लड में एंड ब्लड से ये ब्लड वेसल्स में आ जाता है जिसके थ्रू ये एल्वियोली में फिर से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड आ जाएगा एंड फिर से ये कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड फ्रॉम एल्वियोली टू ब्रोंकस टू ट्रैकिया एंड टू nasal पैसेज के थ्रू ये एक्सेल आउट हो जाएगा. दिस इज द एंटायर प्रोसेस थ्रू विच गैशियस एक्सचेंज occurs in the alveoli. Once again I am saying that alveoli is the air sacs or this is rich in blood capillaries or the blood vessels. जब भी ऑक्सीजन रिच एयर हमारे ट्रैकिया से ब्रोंकस से एल्वियोली में आ जाता है ये एल्वियोली से ब्लड वेसल्स में पहुंचता है. ठीक है, ये रहा हमारे ब्लड वेसल्स. दिस इज ब्लड वेसल्स. ऑक्सीजन ब्लड वेसल्स में पहुंचता है, फिर ये ब्लड में चला जाता है, डिफ्यूज हो जाता है. ब्लड से डिफ्यूज होके ट्रांसपोर्ट हो जाता है सेल्स के अंदर. सेल्स में रेस्पिरेशन होता है. सेल में रेस्पिरेशन के थ्रू कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एज अ बाई प्रोडक्ट प्रोड्यूस होता है, जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड फिर से ब्लड वेसल्स के थ्रू हमारे एल्वियोली में पहुंचता है. फिर एल्वियोली से अगेन वाइस वर्सा होके थ्रू दी नॉस्ट्रिल्स एक्सहेल्ड आउट हो जाता है. क्विकली discuss about the mechanism of breathing or how does breathing happens. Okay, so in case of breathing, there are two main parts that facilitates the whole process of breathing. And what are they? They are, first of all, rib cage, and secondly is the diaphragm. Okay, now what happen in these two parts, and how does these two parts actually helps to facilitates the process of breathing. Okay, now rib cage protected the lungs, and diaphragm, as I already told you, that it is a muscular part that separates the chest cavity and the abdominal cavity. Now what happened in case of inhalation? Inhalation means breathing in oxygen rich air. So when we breathe in oxygen rich air, the movement of these two parts is going to happen. And what happens? First of all, keep your hands on your chest. What did you see? You see, when you inhaled, our chest cavity going to move upwards or outwards, right? So here what happened? The diaphragm move downwards. Diaphragm, here is the diaphragm, this is move downwards, and the rib cage move up and outwards, and this will create a space, and that is how the oxygen from the surroundings, external surrounding, is able to enter inside our body, because we need space to enter that oxygen, right, or air, right? So in order to making that space or create that space, the diaphragm move downwards and the rib cage move outwards, up and outwards. Okay, this movement increase the space in our chest cavity, and the lungs get filled with oxygen rich air. Okay, in case of exhalation, the exactly opposite process or the mechanism is going to happen. What happened in, again, keep your hands on your chest and exhaled out. What happens? What did you see? When we exhaled out the air, our chest cavity is moved to their former position. Okay, so when we exhaled out the carbon dioxide air, or the air rich in carbon dioxide, the diaphragm move to their former position and rib cage move down and inwards. The exactly opposite thing is going to happen, and this movement of this rib cage and diaphragm will reduce the space in our chest cavity, and lungs pushed out the excess carbon dioxide rich air. And this is the mechanism of breathing. This is how inhalation and exhalation happens in our body. So that's it for today's class. If you like this video, then please like it and share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, because a little support from you guys give me a lot of motivation. Thank you.